Kareem, Abdul, Jabbar, Kareem, what feelings are you having 50 years after you led Milwaukee to an NBA title?
I think it's great for the city of Milwaukee. The fans are so great there. They're loyal. They're crazy, and they stick with it. So, it's been 50 years, and I'm happy for them. And I think that, it'll be a new era for them. They've been waiting for this for a long time.
You're a prolific writer. How would you describe what you saw from Giannis in Game 6?
Well, I saw what Giannis did. He did everything he needed to do to help his team win. 50 points out of 105. Wow. He just did everything. Offense, defense, handling the ball, you name it, he did it. That was an MVP performance if I ever saw one.
Kareem, what is your relationship with the city of Milwaukee? It's been a long time since you were there.
Well, it's been about 40 years since I was there, and a whole lot has happened. But they have new ownership, a new arena, and now they're the world champions. I hope they enjoy that. They should enjoy that. They worked very hard for it.
How will you celebrate this win? Is John McLaughlin there? Is Oscar there? Who's there?
Well, I'm happy for them. I'm not drinking or anything like that. But I'm happy for them. They worked hard for it and they earned it, and that's what counts.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you would know an MVP performance if you saw one. Thank you for joining us on SportsCenter.
It was great talking to you.
Come this far to come this far. And for Phoenix, that's the reality, right? That'll land with them, that they gave all of this and they got to this point, but it wasn't enough. And, only one team can lose. And maybe if you guys just each have a thought on what Phoenix ought to take out of a proud run that comes up just ought it be, Michael?
Well, Scott, I talked to Chris Paul. We're working on this project together about his life, not this season, his life. And he sort of let me in on the secret a few days in advance that he was probably going to be traded to the Suns. And even as excited as he was to be playing with Booker and be playing for Monty Williams and this cast of characters that he liked from afar, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they thought they could get anywhere near this far. They thought they could be good. They knew they were going to make the playoffs. They knew they were going to make the playoffs. That playoff drought thing of 11 years was over. But to think that they were just exuding confidence that they were going to get to the NBA Finals, anybody who says that now is insane. I mean, you heard Monty just talk about how, normally you get to the first round and figure out how you're going to get to the second round. If you get to the second round, you figure out how you're going to, and it's piecemeal. This wasn't piecemeal. This was meteoric. I mean, I did talk to Chris Paul midway through the season, and he said, you know what? We could be really good. And by, in stages, they knew they could be really good to great somewhere in there, and they were going to pursue that. So this, to me, and I don't know that they'll feel this way for weeks. It's going to take time, like they both said. To me, this is an overwhelming successful season. The Phoenix Suns haven't been in the finals in almost 30 years. Mm-hmm. Yep. And Chris Paul comes and he takes a group, this group, Ayton, who had never really been coached, not really, mm-hmm. and he takes this group and he goes to the finals? Yeah. Seriously, this is like I'm not going to call it bad news bears, but you know what I mean? This is the kind of story you don't see in pro sports.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I've been in the journalism profession for nearly 30 years, and when you talk about a guy that's going to be chronicling the life story of a guy like CP3, I can think of nobody more qualified than my brother right here, Mike Wilbon. So I just want to say that. The other thing that I want to say is this. I understand everything that Mike Wilbon just said about CP3 and the Phoenix Suns and how meteoric this season has been for them. But what is inescapable, Scott, is the profound sadness that so many of us feel for him because we've known him for so long. We know how dedicated and committed he is, how tirelessly he has worked throughout the years. And he's an acquired taste. He's not for everybody because his priority has always been about winning and doing it the right way. And he didn't care if he ruffled your feathers along the way because the bottom line was about getting the job done. And for 16 illustrious years as a quintessential point guard in this game, this is the closest he had ever been. You saw the great LeBron James tweet after game 1 down, 3 to go. After game 2 down, 2 to go. And you got this itch, sensing what you were seeing from Milwaukee. that the door was closing on them and that we would be sitting here or standing here celebrating CP3. And for 4 games later to be sitting here lamenting the fact that his team couldn't get it done, knowing he's 36 and that he was the best player on the court for the Phoenix Suns tonight because Booker didn't have it, Bridges wasn't ready, DeAndre Ayton looked absolutely petrified, Crowder didn't have it for the most part even though he had a decent game, and you weren't able to get the level of production from the pieces around you that you customarily was getting throughout this season. To be 36 and to have it in this way, it's hard to look at him and say, you know something, he'll be back. A matter of fact, the temptation is to say this was his chance. And that's the hard part about all of this. You know Giannis Antetokounmpo is more than worthy and deserving. Right. But you also know that CP3 was as well. And only one of them can walk home with the championship. And it wasn't CP3.
And that's why I always find myself, man, referring to the Roosevelt speech about the man in the arena who strives valiantly, you know, who knows the great devotions, who errs while daring greatly, all of that certainly lands with me tonight because he was in the arena, and 6 games later, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis with a 50-point performance are the champions. Your time so appreciated throughout the finals. Your company is always valued, and I enjoyed it as always. Be well. Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, thank you.
So do we.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank
Appreciate you.
All right.
I'm here. I'm right here. I'm right here with these cheeseheads. This is where I'm going to be. I'm going to re-sign here. I'm not going to wait for the money to become available in Miami or Dallas or anywhere else, New York, Madison Square Garden. I'm setting my roots down here. And he did it here. And I'm not going to pretend to know Giannis that well. I know him a little bit. But I loved when he did that. And he owned whatever shortcomings there might have been or perceived shortcomings, not winning. And he did it here. And it just, I think, to a segment of us, and you guys being East Coast guys, the gentleman to my right and both of you, you may not understand what that feels like here in the fly across states, right? But people here understand what that means. And there's a special relationship now with Giannis that they're going to credit him for forever because he didn't pick up and leave and go assemble a big whatever in a big market. He did it here. And I think all of that had to be going through his mind when we saw him sit on that bench and tears come to his eyes.
I can appreciate Michael Wilbon's point. It's very astute, as always, no doubt. But I'm going to tell you what I think is the biggest thing we should peel away from what we've seen from the great, phenomenal performance he put forth tonight with 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. Just a sensational performance, Scott. The man never ran from adversity. That is the key to me. It's not, yes, you could say it's about staying in Milwaukee, and I'm not going to dispute that by any stretch of the imagination. But he didn't run from adversity. This is not a guy that lost in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago to Toronto because he had a bad night. He had 4 bad consecutive games because Kawhi Leonard stood up in the locker room after going down 0-2 and told Coach Nick Nurse, I'm guarding Giannis. And he picked him up past half court and prevented him from going downhill. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, devoid of a perimeter shot, devoid of stout shooting from the free throw line, seemed relatively helpless. We saw what happened to them in the bubble against Miami last year. This year, you've got people booing him, you've got people heckling him, you've got people teasing him about his game. No perimeter shot, clearly horrid from the free throw line. And he kept coming. He wouldn't stop. The ridicule, the vitriol, the humiliation, it didn't matter. One loss in a playoff game, going down in another playoff series, it didn't matter. He kept coming. And somehow, some way, you just got to a point where you said, excuse me, they can't stop him. Even though he's missing free throws, they can't stop him. Even though he doesn't have a jump shot, they can't stop him. And he kept coming. And then sure enough, as the games waned and the series waned, he started hitting more free throws. And then he ends it and he culminates it in his final game.